Welcome to the Search Optics webinar series, where our goal is to educate you on trends in the digital marketing industry that will impact your business. Today's webinar is called Mobile First, and as you can probably tell from the title, we're going to be focusing on the buying behavior of today's mobile car shopper. My name is Christy Greenblatt. I'm the training director at Search Optics, and I'll be leading you throughout this webinar. Now, I also had the pleasure of doing the research behind the webinar, and I found out some really interesting things about shopping behavior among today's car buyer, about how they're using smartphones to research and buy vehicles. And I think these are things that you'll find really interesting and help you come up with ways to lure those mobile shoppers into your dealership. So in this webinar, what we're going to talk about is the rising use of mobile technology among today's car shopper. We'll then take a look at what can dealers do in terms of their own marketing strategies to cater to today's mobile shopper? Because the truth is, if you don't, your competition will, and then leave you in the dust. And then finally, what I want to conclude with is equipping you with some questions that you need to think about and some issues that you can raise with your current digital marketing provider to make sure that your strategy is one that's going to keep you ahead of the curve and ahead of the competition. So before we get started, though, I just want to go over one housekeeping issue. If you have questions throughout the webinar, and I certainly hope that you do, I hope that some of the information that I share with you will spark a question or an issue or concern. What I'd love for you to do is to use your question function. On your dashboard, you should have in the upper right-hand corner the ability to write in a question in the dialog box. What I'll do is I'll talk for about 20 minutes, and then I'll take those questions at the end. And I'll just do that out of respect for the time of people who only are able to spend 20 minutes with us. But please, if you have questions throughout, write them down. So before we start to talk about the rising use of mobile technology among today's car shopper, I just want to familiarize you a little bit with Search Optics. And I want you to feel comfortable taking digital marketing advice from us. And here's why I think that's important. Our salespeople talk to, hundreds of dealers every day. We've got folks on the phone who are calling inside dealerships, and then we also have an outside sales team who are actually going in and speaking to dealers live. One of the big concerns that we hear from dealers over and over again is they've signed on with a digital marketing provider who's made, big promises and then ended up delivering very little value. So they're burned and they're a little cautious about new vendors. So we know from having been in this industry since its inception, it is very easy to make a promise, but it can be a lot harder to follow through on that promise. If you don't have the right expertise on staff, if you rely too heavily on computer automation, or if you've been primarily focused on traditional advertising. Having partnered with dealers for 17 years now, one of the things that we've really learned is a key to our success is to rely heavily on people and not just any employees, right? Our employees are Google AdWords certified, and that gives them the expertise to make digital marketing decisions. Our dealer customers all day long, they make adjustments and tweaks to their campaigns based on that expertise in digital marketing certified by Google. Now, we've also found that with offices throughout North America and South America, it gives us a really unique perspective that others may lack. We find that most challenges that dealers of similar size markets and similar sized dealerships face, they're common throughout North and South America. So we're able to leverage our experience with a dealer in one area to help another dealer in his own locale. So one of the things that our years of experience has taught us is you've got to pay really close attention to changes in car buyer behavior. And the big change that we're seeing right now has to do with these mobile devices. Smart mobile devices, they have changed the way consumers research and buy everything, and they've done it because they put so much power, just an infinite amount of power, in the palm of our hands. Not only do they give us that information, with mobile devices, we have the ability to act on that information now, too. Having access to that kind of information, anywhere, anytime, that is our new normal. Our customers, they're in what we call the mobile fast lane, and they increasingly rely on their mobile devices to make decisions about researching and buying any kind of products. Nielsen reports that 79% of smartphone and tablet users, they have shopped on their mobile device. I know that I did just this past weekend. My teenager needed a book for class. We were out to dinner. I whipped out my smartphone. I went to the Amazon.com app, found the book, and with one click was able to buy it, right? Then and there. It took less than 2 minutes. So not only have smartphones become an integral part of just our everyday life, they've also become a vital touch point for the car buying journey, and that's what we want to focus on today. So here's some data that supports that claim. J.D. Power reports that U.S. car shoppers using an automotive website or an app on a smartphone, it grew between 2012 and 2013, and that's what you can see on your screen here. But not only did it grow just a little bit, it grew a tremendous amount. In 2012, just 41% of shoppers were reporting having access to an automotive app or website from the smartphone. But in 2013, just one short year later, it jumped all the way up to 71% of car shoppers using those apps from their smartphones. So that's a 73% increase in just 1 year. Now, another study, which was done by Placed Inc., it confirms this trend among car buyers. What they found was that 59% used their smartphone to research dealerships and or vehicles prior to the dealership, and 25% of those, they only use their smartphone to do that research. So these are the kind of numbers that represent a really significant change in shopping behavior among car buyers. Now, here's another interesting number. I love numbers, as you can probably tell. I love research, but it just serves to confirm that mobile trend. 63% of car buyers, they actually use their mobile device to conduct research and shop while at an actual dealership. Someone coined the term showrooming, and that's what it is. So when you're showrooming, think about this. You've got a customer in your showroom, and they have decided they want to test drive a vehicle. The salesperson says, let me have your driver's license. I'll go make a copy of it, and then I'll grab the keys, and I'll pull it up around front. Well, you have a few minutes while that's all taking place. What the customer is doing is, in that dead time, they're whipping out their smartphone, and they are going on to your website, and they're checking out other models that you have in inventory. They're looking at special offers and pricing. 63% of customers are doing that. So you can see what I meant when I said earlier that the mobile device has just become a vital touch point in a car buyer's journey. So what are they researching? What are they looking at while they're showrooming? Primarily what customers are looking at are descriptions of specific models that they're looking at, and they're checking out prices, of course. They're also looking at those special offers, like, specials, like you have lease offers or special financing offers. Other things that they're doing, they can actually fill out a finance application online. They can value a trade-in, and they're doing all these things from their mobile device while they're in your showroom. So an important thing to keep in mind, your customers are doing this whether or not your dealership happens to be ready for it. So if they can't quickly access the information that they need from your mobile website, they're going to turn to a competitor's website instead, and they're all doing this while they're still on your lot. So that's the danger. If they find what they're looking for from that competitor's website, they'll leave your showroom and they will go to the competitor instead. And as mobile use continues to rise, which this chart shows that it clearly will, consumers' expectations of that mobile experience, they continue to rise as well. I mean, we have all experienced the frustration of trying to access a website from our mobile phone that wasn't optimized for mobile, right? And it feels like it happens to me on a weekly basis. I'm pretty bad. I like to whip out my phone while I'm at a red light, and I go to a website, and if I'm served up that full desktop version of the website, I find it so annoying. I can't find the phone numbers, right? I'm pinching and squeezing and scrolling and trying to find the address or the hours of operation or the phone numbers, and I'm doing this all while I'm just sitting there at the red light. I find it really annoying when I'm served up that full desktop version of the website, and like 40% of car shoppers, when I am annoyed by a bad mobile experience, I will actually go to a competitor's website instead. So that's the danger of having a lax attitude about mobile car shoppers, or just thinking, well, I don't need to do anything to market to a mobile shopper specifically. But the great thing about mobile shoppers is they buy. 88% of mobile shoppers, they take action within 24 hours. So around here at Search Optics, we call those low funnel shoppers or in-market shoppers, and they're the ones that are just, incredibly highly prized. Those are the ones you want showing up in your dealership. As smartphone and tablet adoption skyrockets, the consumer is gaining more and more control. What is clear is that mobile marketing is going to become an essential tool for any car dealership to increase awareness and to increase in-store sales. So the key, how are we going to do that for dealers is going to be understanding, how do I reach this new generation of empowered on-the-go car shoppers? So that understanding starts with a fundamental change in your thought process when it comes to planning your media spend. So what you want to do is be sure to put marketing dollars into mobile media, which, as we've just shown, this is clearly where your customers are spending time. And what's interesting is this is also where your mobile shopper is most open to influence. 33% of mobile shoppers they say that they have been lured to a dealer's website by digital ads on their mobile phones. So that's a significant portion of car shoppers that are definitely open to influence. So unfortunately, it is no longer enough just to be online. These days, you have to be able to reach across multiple devices, multiple screen size, and find your customer right at the moment that they whip out their smartphone to conduct the research. That's a tricky thing to do. So to be able to do that, to be able to reach across those multiple devices and multiple screens, you got to have a website that is responsive. It's not just enough to have, separate desktop and mobile websites anymore. It's not even enough to have an adaptive website. It needs to be a responsive website. I want to spend a few moments talking about this issue. It seems to be a pretty hot topic right now, particularly in the automotive industry, about what kind of websites do dealers need to have. Some people are pushing adaptive, others are pushing responsive. So I want to talk about the differences between the two and tell you why we feel at Search Optics that responsive is the way to go. So on the screen here, you can see on the left, there's an example of an adaptive web design, and on the right is the responsive web design. Now, with adaptive web design, the provider is creating multiple websites for your dealership, and those multiple websites are depending on the type of device that the customer uses to access the website. So, for example, you'd have one website layout for a smartphone, like the iPhone 6. You'd have another one for a Samsung Galaxy, and yet another one for the Kindle Fire, and on and on and on. And what that leads to is an inconsistent experience between devices. And that's important because if you think about yourself, about the way that you use multiple devices throughout the day, right? In the morning, the first thing I do is I reach for my smartphone, and I'm looking at news, and I'm checking email. And I get to the office, and I'm on my desktop computer. At lunch, I'm back to my smartphone. I go home, and I'm sitting in front of my TV, and I've got my tablet on my lap, right? So I'm switching across devices all day long, and that's what most people are doing. With the responsive design, what you're going to have when you've got those customers going across all those different devices all day long, you're going to have a nice, consistent experience because a responsive website is just going to respond to the different screen sizes of the customer who's accessing it. They're not responding to device type. So it doesn't matter if it's the iPhone 6 or if it's a Samsung Galaxy. What it's going to do is respond to the size of the screen. That means you only have to have one website. So that's a big benefit there. With adaptive websites, you have multiple websites, but with a responsive, it's just one website. Same URL for your mobile site, same URL for your desktop version. And when it comes to the mobile versions, it's going to serve up a website that is going to respond to the size of the screen and not the device. Another drawback for adaptive websites is that they have slow load times. There's a ton of research out there about how annoyed people get when their pages load slowly, and it happens. It's even more heightened, that annoyance, when it's a mobile device because you have limited time typically when you're accessing something from your smartphone. So adaptive websites, they load more slowly, and here's why. If I have an iPhone 6 and I am trying to access your dealership's website, your website is going to first figure out what kind of device am I using to access the website. Oh, okay, it's an iPhone 6. So it's going to redirect me to a .mobi or an M. website, so a separate mobile website with a separate URL. And it's going to serve whatever version of that website with a static predefined layout, whatever matches the size of the device I have. That redirecting process, that takes some time. It took me a few moments to try to explain it to you, and it takes a few moments for it to happen. So slow load times, they're just a hazard when it comes to adaptive websites. The nice thing about a responsive website, if we compare that, is there's no redirecting. So the responsive website, you type in your dealership's name from a mobile device, you are being directed to one URL. It would be the same URL if I was accessing your website from your desktop computer. So no redirecting, pages load very quickly, and they load very fluidly, text and columns. They just adjust nicely no matter what the device. Now, the final devastating blow, I think, for adaptive websites is what they do to your SEO. Think about this. You have competing websites. You've got an M. website or a .mobi website competing with your regular desktop version, and they are competing for search engine results. Those organic listings, so how high you're going to show up on the search engine result page. You got two competing websites at the very least. One of the nice things about responsive is it's just one website, so no competition, and no worry about, is one website going to be competing with the other for SEO results. Now, if that wasn't enough to convince you, let me bring in the big guns now and talk about Google. This is a huge benefit of responsive design because Google says that responsive web design, that is the recommended configuration for businesses that rely on high quantities of search engine traffic, and that is exactly what dealerships do. So Google says it's the recommended configuration. I went on to Google's Webmaster Tools, and they had something that they call a mobile guide. And this is a screenshot that I took just straight from the Google Mobile Guide, and it lists all the reasons that Google says responsive is better. I won't read all these bullet points for you, but a couple things did stand out to me that I thought were compelling. One is that it says that responsive web design reduces the possibility of errors and common mistakes that typically affect mobile websites. And the reason why is because there's no redirecting. Remember I told you you have to redirect to a different .mobi or m. website with an adaptive website? That's error prone anytime you're redirecting. But if you're just being sent to the same URL, none of the redirecting problems, so then the errors likelihood goes down. So Google likes that, right? They want to give users a good experience. It's so interesting to me that Google is really starting to care about the quality of the experience of a mobile user. So much so that on March 13, they came out with an official statement saying that the quality of the mobile user's experience is going to be a factor in its ranking algorithm. So that is huge benefit of using responsive websites. So we talked about responsive web design. I'd like to show you an example of what that looks like. So as you can see from the slide, there are 4 different devices here, right? We've got a desktop version, we've got the laptop, we've got a smartphone, we've got a tablet. And as you can see, it looks the same across all those devices, right? So that's what I meant when I said like a consistent, fluid experience across devices. What's interesting is we'll take a close look at how the different screen size responds, how the website responds to that. When you're looking at the desktop or the laptop version of the site, you'll see that the inventory is shown in 4 columns, right? Because you've got so much real estate there you can work with. You can spread it out across the entire screen. But as we shrink down to a smaller size screen, which is that tablet, you'll see it condenses down to 3 columns. And then as we go down to the very smallest device, which is a smartphone, we're only seeing a 1 column of inventory. Now, all that inventory is still all there. You would just need to scroll down with your finger to find it. But when you've got a smartphone, you know how easy it is to fat finger things because you have such limited real estate on the actual screen. So we wanted to make the best use of that screen and make sure that people don't fat finger things. We're not trying to shove too much information on it. So that's why we shrink down to 1 column with a responsive website. Taking a closer look at what that mobile website looks like, or a responsive website on a mobile device, I should say, you can see we've got integrated specials. There are very clear calls to action throughout the entire site. It's very easy to navigate. You can see it would be hard to fat finger things here. You could very easily make sure you were clicking on the right thing and not the wrong thing. My favorite thing about this is that it's got a sticky header. I'm not sure if that's a term you're familiar with or not. I wasn't until I started doing a lot of this research. What a sticky header is basically what it sounds like. It sticks to the top of the screen. So let's say I was going through all that inventory that we just saw on the previous slide, and I'm scrolling with my finger, and I get 10 cars down, and I say, yeah, that's the car I'm interested in. So I click on the vehicle detail page, and I'm reading all about this vehicle, and then I decide I want to call the dealership to see if it's in inventory, and can I come test drive it tomorrow. I don't have to take my finger and scroll back up through the top to find that number. That phone number, those hours of operation, everything sticks to the screen. So no matter how far down I scroll, it's going to be right there at the top of my screen where I can easily click on it. So that is huge benefit of responsive. Another huge benefit is what a responsive web design looks like on the back end. Now the back end is for you or your internet sales manager or your IT person on staff. That's the person who has to go in and make those changes to your website. Our back-end tools with the CMS are responsive as well as what the customer sees on the front end. Why does that matter? Well, think about this. You are out to dinner with your own family on a Friday night, and you realize, oh my gosh, we're planning to keep the dealership open until 5 o'clock tomorrow because we're running a special and we want to stay open until 5 instead of 3. So you whip out your smartphone, you log into the back end of your responsive website, You go to the page, that's the About Us page with the hours and the directions on it, and you make the change from opening on Saturday from 3 o'clock until 5 o'clock. You hit publish, those changes go live immediately. You put your phone away and you go back to enjoying your dinner. So you didn't have to call into a support queue. You didn't have to have a ticket submitted and wait, days and weeks for that change to be made. You were able to do it all from your own mobile device. That's a huge benefit as well. I said earlier that it's really important to allocate a portion of your marketing dollars to mobile marketing, since, as we've shown, this is where customers are spending time, this is where they're actively seeking information, and this is where they're definitely open to influence. I want to take it a step further, actually, and say, what I'm going to recommend is that when you are planning your media spend, make sure that you first put your dollars into mobile marketing and put it into your responsive website, right? That's where your money should go first. A responsive website that's going to cater to mobile shoppers. And then after you've done that, think, okay, how do I spend the rest of my marketing dollars? And I know that may be a radical suggestion, but your website is the foundation of your entire marketing strategy. You don't want to have a foundation that is slow or inconsistent or unresponsive to the needs of your mobile shoppers. It's so common for dealers to build their current marketing strategy based on their existing, strategy or platform, and then just kind of jerry-rig things together. But we're suggesting that you do the opposite. Go back to the ground, right? Start with your mobile strategy with a responsive website, and then design marketing collateral and campaigns and everything else around it. That's going to prove a lot easier in the end than trying to convert to mobile later. Because, frankly, the mobile takeover is inevitable. You got to start early with the mobile strategy, and then just design everything else around it. I want to conclude today by talking about your own mobile strategy. I'm preaching to the choir here, right, when I say that the automotive sales environment is becoming increasingly complex. Well, influx of mobile shoppers, it's not making things any easier on you. So to navigate this shift in consumer behavior, you've got to take your dealership mobile too. Here are a few things that you can do to go ahead and get a jump on your competition with regards to that. One, don't wait any longer. Don't wait any longer to invest in mobile marketing. You don't want to lose a competitive advantage, right? So now's the time to go ahead and convert your two separate desktop and mobile websites into one responsive website that Google recommends that you have. And then second, you got to make sure that you have really fresh, strong content, the type of content that is compelling to mobile shoppers. You can't find an article these days that doesn't talk about rankings and the importance of good, strong, relevant content for every part of your marketing campaign, right? SEO, your local search, your paid search strategy, social media, it's all about content. Content is king. Well, when you're talking about mobile, it becomes even more compelling because you got to make sure that the content that you are putting out there in your mobile strategy is going to lure those mobile shoppers into your actual dealership. And then third, you want to make sure that you align your physical showroom with whatever your digital, your virtual showroom and your digital pitch is, right? So give shoppers that consistent experience. So if they're finding something on their mobile devices, make sure that that same something that they found is reflected in your physical showroom. And then most importantly, make sure that you offer free Wi-Fi. You've got to have free Wi-Fi on your lot and in your showroom because, as we said earlier, 63% of your customers, they are showrooming. So they are whipping out their mobile devices and checking out your website to look for specials and offers and go through your inventory. Make that as easy as possible on them. So the first step then to designing your mobile strategy is you got to talk to your provider, and you need to make sure that they've got the horsepower to help you go mobile. So here's just a few questions that you can ask to see if they are the right fit for you and can help you go mobile. So one is, will your solution help my customers to move seamlessly from device to device? Will it provide that same consistent experience no matter what device they're using? And do you use the website configuration that Google recommends, which we now know is definitely responsive? How will the content that you create stand out to a mobile shopper, and what will it do to lure them into my showroom? Is your solution optimized for the behavior of mobile shoppers? And then does it provide a good mobile shopper experience? So you know enough now, just based on the 20 minutes that we spent together, to evaluate your provider's answers and determine whether or not they can take you where today's car shopper is going, which is definitely mobile. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. what I'd like to do is pause now and just check my question bank to see what questions that you've had throughout the webinar. So just give me a moment to take a peek on my dashboard. Oh, okay. It looks like the first question I have here is, my mobile website already looks really slick, so is it really necessary for me to convert to a responsive website? So I'm going to say very emphatically yes, that it is necessary to convert to that mobile website or the responsive website. And here's why. I look at websites all day long because one of the things I do is I teach our salespeople how to do an analysis of a dealer's digital marketing presence. And I see a lot of websites, either desktop versions or mobile versions, they look pretty good. But what's important, it certainly looks more important, but what is more important is the functionality of the website. So if it's a really slick-looking website, that's great, but does it allow your customers to find what they need quickly? Can they search through inventory in real time? Is it integrated with like lease specials and offers? Can they value their trade-in right from your smartphone? Can they submit a finance app from your smartphone? These are the types of things that a responsive solution will allow your customers to do. And I think that you'll find that to be more effective than just having a website that looks good. All right, it doesn't look like I have any other questions at this time, so thank you again. If you're like me and you think of questions after the webinar has ended, please feel free to reach out to us at Search Optics. You can find us on the web, or you can give us a call at 888-590-7369. Thanks so much, and make it a great day.